Hey y'all. So I was thinking about something. I was talking to my best friend about a situation that had happened. It kind of started yesterday and then carried over into today. And what had happened is my son has a friend, right? And I help the mom out with the friend from time to time. And so she shares custody with the father. And the father is a narc, and I don't really trip off of him. I kind of let him do him. He's never like been disrespectful or anything to me. He has been to other people, right? And so Nick did tell me to kind of leave bro alone, stay away from him, and that's what I've done. So I realized today that he had, because I didn't answer him in the time frame that he expected to be answered, he sent me like the same message like 3 times. And then he had asked me something, I think 2 weeks ago, and I told him like, oh no, I can't help. And I told him like, oh, I have something I have to do, right? And so he was like, oh, hey, you mentioned XYZ. Where is that at, in case we want to patronize it in the future? And I didn't answer. Because now I'm noticing that, like, you're kind of overstepping your boundaries, right? So I realized something. I was listening to a podcast today, and this lady was asking this man, like, how do I date? I have a narcissistic father, and I'm healing from my father. But do you have any advice for me when I decide to like date again? And he said, you have to go no contact with your dad. And he said, because if you can't set boundaries with your father, you won't be able to set boundaries with the man. And, the light bulb went off. Like, a lot of my content on this page, we always talk about people pleasing and, boundary setting and, recovery from, certain toxic systems and things like that we have been born into. And you guys know my story. I was abused as a child, and I realized a lot of that has played into how I pick people, even when I don't realize, how I ended up in a situation until after it's over, right? And so I thought about that. And I told my best friend today, when the thing happened with the dad, I said, I just blocked him. Like, I'm not about to play this game with you. I'm figuring out what you're trying to do. So I'm going to block you because I don't owe you any answer. And I told her, I said, I said, I'm loving this me. Sorry, y'all, I'm outside with Champ. Where is he? There he is somewhere. There he is. And so I said, I noticed something. I said, I like this new me. I said, I'm not sure exactly when this new me showed up, but I like her. Well, when I heard that on the podcast, it made sense. I am one of those people that ended up in a lot of toxic situations because I was always trying to prove myself to people, right? Whereas people that people know what you have to offer. People know who you are, right? Like when they meet you. The fun part when you're healed is when you meet someone and you learn the fun things about them that you didn't know. But you don't have to prove how good of a person you are or how worthy you are of their attention. You know what I mean? And so I realized that a lot of the toxic situations that I had ended up in was because, and the people pleasing, because we talked about how I'm a reformed people pleaser and pick me, was because of I don't feel the need to explain myself to my parents anymore, right? Like, I may be talking to my parents or like my mom specifically, because my mom is the judgmental one. I could be talking to my mom and my mom would be like, well, why do you feel like doing that? And the other day it happened. Come on, Pops. The other day it happened. And I remember telling her, like, she was like, well, I think we were talking about something. And she was like, well, I don't understand. And I was like, well, it's not for you to understand. God didn't give you the vision. And I was kind of surprised when I said it. Stop, come on. I was kind of surprised when I even said what I said and how I said it, because obviously I meant no disrespect, but I don't owe you an explanation for how I choose to move because I'm grown. And my whole entire life I've been trying to prove myself to you, but for what? As your child, right? The places that I needed you, I should have never even had to ask you to be in those places and spaces. And it took for me to heal little me to understand that. You don't have to ask anyone to be a good parent. You don't have to ask anyone to show up for you. You don't have to ask anyone. You don't have to prove yourself worthy to your parents for them to properly love you, right? If people want to, they will. And that's the God's honest truth. And even if you don't know, you'll find the resources, right? Like, because of my trauma, specifically with my mom, I had to learn how to not be like that, right? Like, I had to learn the mother that I wanted to be for my children. I didn't have necessarily that example. So I had to find those examples. So it's the same thing, you know, like when you are getting into friendships or you're getting into relationships, a lot of the reason why we end up in these situations is because we're trying to prove ourselves to people. These people know who the hell you are. They don't want you to know, because once they know that you know, your sickness won't benefit them anymore. But I just have to come to y'all and talk to y'all about that, because I'm damn near proud of myself, y'all. Like, I'm excited. Because now it's almost like it took me so long to exercise this muscle. And because I'm not trying to prove myself to my parents anymore, and this is 34-year-old me saying this, right? I'm also not trying to prove myself to anybody else around me. You either are around me for me or you're not. And that's the end of that. Love y'all. Have a good day.